Prologue. If you're listening, you've likely read some of my blog posts. If you haven't, that's okay. But let's catch you up. My name is Jason Salcedo. I'm 26 years old and major in English. I'm due to graduate in a couple weeks, and by the time this project will have been uploaded, this will have come to pass. Hopefully. I've read each Harry Potter book cover to cover over 4 times, and have always been fond of ketchup sandwiches. But enough about me. Now about the project. I'd originally planned to do a video, but to save time, I've decided to record an audio drama. Now, I'll make no claims to be a professional in this endeavor, but I'll aim to produce quality content however I can. What follows is a work of fiction, but it reflects shades, tones, bits and pieces of memories, feelings, and thoughts I've had over the last 4 years. Some of it is real, and some of it is symbolic. Although some of the names have been altered, the story remains mostly unedited. Part 1. In the early hours of the morning, while Tom is in bed, he dreams of the sun, warm and bright. He's at home, in a house tucked away by the beaches in the tropical state he calls home. He dreams of himself graduating from college, diploma in hand, his family cheering him as he walks across the stage to shake the hands of his professors. The dream shifts, and he is in front of a whiteboard, teaching a class full of students. The dream shifts again, only Tom is with his family, his dad and mom, dressed in beachwear, arms wrapped around each other, and his sister, Nora, in a yellow sundress with a broad hat. At the beach, they pose as a photographer takes their picture. It's a happy memory, and Tom smiles, shifting ever so slightly in his bed. There is a distant thunder, a flash, and the sky grows dark. Tom's parents have disappeared, leaving him on a beach with his sister. The wind is howling, and while Tom and his sister run for the boardwalk, sand is whipping all around them. Tom's sister makes it to the steps and runs to the safety of a covered structure. Tom has just reached the second step when he hears the crack of another bout of lightning. The lightning hits the boardwalk with such force, wood splinters and the boardwalk crumbles. Tom cries out, waking, and sits up against the headboard of his full-sized bed. Part 2. Tom receives his acceptance letter from the university and prepares to drive to his new home for the next 2 years. He signed a lease for an apartment. His bags are packed, and his parents make him promise to call. The semester started a couple months ago, and things seem to be going well. Tom's made a few friends, he's found great restaurants downtown, and regularly bikes to school. Months pass, bringing a bitter winter with it. Tom sits in his bedroom at his desk, passing the time watching funny cat videos and reading posts on Reddit. Tom stretches in his chair, not unlike the cats in his videos, extending his arms above his head and groaning. Sitting slumped will do that. He isn't sick, but he feels like crap. He's not as happy as when he first arrived. The only silver lining is that he has some friends to rely on, when most of them weren't off drinking and partying, which was often. He'd made some friends, however, that were a little more academically motivated. When days were really bad, when boredom and depression couldn't be staved off with Reddit and cats, Tom would often smoke marijuana and drink copious amounts of beer. It made life feel less depressing. It enhanced his mood, and everything felt alright. At least, that's how it appeared. Part 3. Not even a month prior, Tom would always keep himself well-groomed, and at the very least brush and floss, take regular showers. In recent days, though, Tom had started to fall into uncharacteristically bad habits, had poor hygiene, and became careless with money. When he was younger, he had been diagnosed with ADHD, and as a result of drinking and smoking, he now often forgot to take his medication. He'd started to fall behind on class readings, even missing some classes and assignments. As it went on, Tom's life started to spiral out of control, and he fell into an endless cycle of bad behavior, misery, and addiction. Less of his more stable friends wanted to hang out with him. It also didn't help that one of his remaining friends' girlfriend treated him like garbage whenever they hung out. After a few weeks, Tom had stopped hanging out with anyone. He felt terribly alone in the world. He hadn't called his parents in a while. He felt ready to give in, to give up. He told himself that he had nothing left to live for. He drove to a bridge, opened his door, and left his keys in the ignition. He stepped up onto the ledge between two supporting cables, peering over into the abyss below. Tom tenses up, steps back, and falls from the ledge, back onto the asphalt he'd stepped from. He couldn't do it. He was just being selfish and weak. He falls to the ground and sits against the ledge, tears welling in his eyes. He sits for a while, time passing endlessly, the sky darkening. The sun starts to go down, casting an orange glow on the windshield of his car, and Tom drives home. Before bed, Tom hears a thunderstorm in the distance and falls asleep, the rain pittering against the window. The next morning, he makes plans to visit his parents back home. He arrives at the airport early, taking a 4-hour flight to the East Coast. The experience was awful. Cramped seats, crying babies. His only solace were his noise-canceling headphones, which he made sure to charge fully and pack into his carry-on. His parents picked him up at the airport. Part 4. That night, while talking to his parents about the state of the world, government leaders, and the weather, Tom began to argue with his parents when he couldn't get them to see his point of view, and his voice and movements became increasingly erratic and louder. Tom's aggravation became uncontrollable as he screamed at his parents, storming into his bedroom and slamming the door behind him with a loud crash. Sitting on his bed, he seethed in anger, then in anguish as he began to wonder how everything had gone so wrong. His mind swimming like a fish in molasses, and he held his head in his hands. Shortly, there was a soft tap at his door. His dad called out to him, "Is everything all right?" Tom couldn't respond. He wasn't sure. He didn't feel all right. He was confused. He was hurting. His dad came into the room, followed by his mom. His mom spoke softly, with an empathy and a sternness that emphasized the urgency. "This isn't the person we know you are. Something isn't right. Let us help you," she pleaded. Tom went silent and was still. After a while, he spoke. "What's wrong with me?" he questioned. "Why does it always turn out this way?" He shuddered, his eyes red and his eyes ringed with tears, and his mom cried as she hugged him, massaging his back with her hand. Tom turned in early for the night. He was tired. No, exhausted. The bags under his eyes showed, and he was emotionally and mentally drained. He slept like the dead, passing out within minutes. Part 5. The next morning, Tom agreed to go to therapy and pay a visit to his psychiatrist to address the issues with his problematic behavior. With his appointment scheduled for 1 month later, Tom returns home to his university, returning to a quiet apartment. Gathering up all the beer and paraphernalia he could find, he pitched bottles into the dumpster and smashed bongs and pipes. He made a real ceremony of it, feeling a real sense of progress in turning his life around. By the end, he felt like a new man. That afternoon, Tom decided to tell his friend the news of his transition to a healthier, more stable lifestyle. His friend seemed happy. The girlfriend, not so much. Rather than seeing the good that came of the transition for his life, and how destroying his paraphernalia was cathartic, his friend's girlfriend shouted and yelled at him, chastising him for not saving them to give to his friend and his girlfriend. Tom was stunned. His friend seemed shocked as well, but said nothing. Tom became angry. He couldn't believe his friend and her. He yelled, "Are you freaking serious? I tell you about improving my own life and what this means for me, and all you can think of is how to benefit yourself? What the hell is wrong with you both? I don't need this in my life. I don't deserve to be treated this way." Tom left, slamming shut the door to his friend's apartment, and he got in his car, driving away. He felt happy to have cut just another bad thing out of his life. He never spoke to his friend again, blocking his number and deleting it from his phone. He calls his parents and tells them he's coming home to finish out his semester. Elated to return home and start a new, clean, healthy chapter of his life, he cleans out his apartment, loads up the car, and makes the trek back home, 2,000 plus miles away. Part 6. In as little words as possible, what are your 3 biggest concerns in life right now? A month has passed, and Tom is at his appointment to see a psychiatrist. Tom, scrunching his face and squinting, replies, "My inability to react appropriately to situations is a big one. I had a problem with alcohol and weed, and I'd often use it to self-medicate. I'd get debilitating depression and stay in bed all day. I'd miss assignments, but I'd have some good days and get work done. But life hasn't overall been that great in recent days. Based on what you've told me, I'm going to prescribe you lamotrigine, a medication commonly prescribed to people with epilepsy, but it's also for people with bipolar disorder. So I have bipolar disorder? What about my ADHD medication? Many of the symptoms of ADHD tend to overlap with that of bipolar disorder, so we'll also keep you on your current medication as well. Let's start with 25 milligrams and move up to 50 milligrams in 2 weeks and go from there. Move to 100 milligrams if things aren't where they need to be. Part 7. A week later, Tom goes to his therapy appointment. In his first session, he talked about his life up until college and what he'd been through with his family and friends. All of the surface level stuff that he wanted to pursue further in future therapy sessions. He talked primarily about someone he perceived to be one of his best friends. It was like he didn't value me at all. I put in a lot of effort and he didn't do the same for me. How do you feel about that? Angry? Sad? Disappointed? I just expected too much, I guess. A week later, Tom looks at himself in the mirror. He looks disheveled and seems to have developed a bit of a gut. Geez, I need to get in shape. Tom starts to get into an exercise routine, alternating between cycling and aerobics during the week and resting on the weekends. One morning, he caught his reflection when washing his face. He saw some development in his muscles, and he looked more alive. The bags under his eyes had all but disappeared. He eyed the pill bottles on the counter and filled a glass of water, retrieved a pill from each, and popped it in his mouth, swallowing with a gulp of water. Later that evening, he gets into a huge fight with his parents. Moments prior, he had been in his office working on an assignment for school. He'd had his headphones on, so he did not hear his parents call him to ask if he wanted to watch a show with them. Moments prior, he had been in his office, working on an assignment for school. He'd had his headphones on, so he did not hear his parents call him to ask if he wanted to watch a show with them. They had watched nearly 3 episodes before he emerged from the office. He bellows, "What are you doing? You're watching without me? Are you fucking kidding me? And you didn't even think to ask me if I wanted to watch with you? What's wrong with you people? Screw all of you!" Without giving them a chance to respond, he left in a huff, strode into his bedroom, and slammed the door. The next morning, his parents tried to convince him to increase his medication. After a long discussion, he caved, saw reason, and agreed to pay another visit to a psychiatrist. Part 8. Now at 150 milligrams, he began to see a dramatic improvement in his grades, from B's and C's to A's. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt happy. He even smiled more. A few days later, Tom was talking to his parents about politics, and it was getting a little warm. He could feel himself getting irritated and could not repress the urge to raise his voice. He belted out his argument loudly, but unlike before, he caught himself before he was able to say any more. He apologized, and relying on a strategy he had learned in his continuing therapy sessions, said, "I'm not comfortable talking about this right now. I'd like to take 10 and come back to this later. I need to gather my thoughts before this gets out of control." Tom later came back to the conversation, speaking calmly and finishing the point he was trying to make. Tom and his parents began to see an improvement in his own behavior, but he felt that things could be better. He spoke to a psychiatrist again and increased his dosage to 200 milligrams. On 200 milligrams, he no longer felt irritated by the things that always made him so. He felt calmer, more balanced even, and at peace with the world around him. He started to enjoy talking to people, actually listening to them without arguing or bringing in preconceived judgments and notions. And although there were still instances in which he latched onto a subject, he was getting better at letting things go and not letting things get to him much more than when on a lower dosage. One afternoon, Tom and his family had made tomato soup and grilled cheese for lunch. He walked away to get something from his bedroom. He still had half a sandwich waiting for him and a bowl of soup. He found out, and he came out to find it gone. His mother apologized, having mistaken the sandwich as her own. Tom sighs, rolled his eyes, but did not get angry, something he would have been furious at before getting on his new medication. Part 9. That evening, while sitting at his desk, Tom thought of his life and what his future would be. His sister, Nora, reached out to him, and he asked if she would go have coffee with him. They ended up going out to lunch, talking and laughing for nearly 3 hours. He felt tearfully happy, overjoyed that things had turned out this way. He starts to daydream, seeing himself flying past his old life, his future spanning the horizon in front of him. He picks out scenes of what awaited him, teaching English to a class of students, dressed in professional wear, smiling ear to ear, doing what he loves. The movie in his mind edges to the romantic and sees himself meeting someone, dating. His thoughts race, and he imagines himself in a black suit, her in a beautiful white dress. The scene shifts once again, only a dog barking outside brings him back to reality. He realizes that his life is going to be difficult and will require a lot of work, but it will be because of the support of his family, his determination to be the best person he can be, and to persevere that will get him there. In a way, being on medication and going to therapy had put him on a path to success and happiness that he would never have imagined otherwise. That's why it's important to see when you have a problem, whether or not you see it yourself, that you take steps to address it. And when you do, you'll likely not only have a better life, but better relationships and and make better memories. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this audio drama. I'm not sure if I did an amazing job on this, but it's been fun to record this. It's definitely been difficult over the last probably 6-7 months. It's been really tumultuous. Even being back here at home, it still has had its ups and downs, but I think I've come a long way from what I used to be anyway. I'd like to thank my family, for being there for me. They've been really helpful in me making this transition from basically being alone in Colorado for 2-something years, and then coming back. I essentially cut off all my friends. I just kind of just cut them all off and out of my life. And I think it's done me a lot of good. I don't really regret it. I still have some dreams about like the friends that I used to have and all the memories that I'd made with them. But now I'm just excited to make better memories and better experiences and be healthy. And we actually just recently started on this new diet. There has been a hiccup because I'm not supposed to have any bread. There was a slice of pizza that we'd gotten from our local pizza eatery, and instead of just throwing away the pizza, I actually ended up eating it. I'm kind of ashamed of that part, but it's just so good. I'm not going to be able to have it again for a really long time. So yeah, I guess I'll just leave you guys with that. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.